But just then, a sudden voice from behind made him hesitate to continue. What are you doing here? Where did Pomerian's nanny go? The person who came was Hugo's eldest son, Osiris. The interruption of the plan made Andromalius grind his teeth in anger. After all, at this stage, he could not yet reveal his demonic identity. I don't know where the nanny went. I only saw Pomerian here alone when I arrived, so I took over caring for her. Osiris did not continue to press the issue, but seriously reminded his younger brother. Father said, aside from him and brother Vakir, no one else is allowed to stay close to Pomerian for long. I can pretend I didn't see anything this time. You should hurry back and recuperate. Hearing this, Andromalius gave a benevolent smile, but in his heart, he had already cursed countless times. One day, I will definitely kill you. Osiris felt his brother was somewhat resentful of his meddling, so, the next second, he directly grabbed his shoulder. I'm just worried that you're pushing yourself too much. You can always come to me if you need help. At that moment, Set's long-sealed memories were awakened, affecting even the demon's mind. He found Osiris's words utterly disgusting. When they were young, Osiris had always stood out in front of their father, which led to Set constantly being compared to him. If it weren't for you, I would never have felt so out of favor as to harbor feelings of inferiority. Seeing his brother's expression growing more and more wrong, Osiris asked with concern again, Brother, are you feeling unwell? Do you want me to help you to your room to rest? Andromalius refused him and turned to leave. No need, big brother. I appreciate your kindness. I should hurry back and take care of myself. Upon hearing this, Osiris clenched his fists nervously because this was the first time he had openly expressed concern for his brother. As the primary heir of the Baskerville family, he had shown great talent in swordsmanship from a young age, and Hugo had high hopes for him, causing Osiris to always live in the shadow of Hugo. Now, faced with Pomerian's return, Hugo cried tears of joy. With this, Osiris thought he should also try expressing the emotions within him. Thank you, Pomerian. Your arrival has changed the current situation of the family. Time quickly passed, and at this moment, Andromalius was stomping his feet in anger inside the cave. His irritation was so great that he couldn't even enjoy eating delicious children. After that day, Hugo has been constantly by Pomerian's side, making it impossible for him to devour Pomerian. Damn it, that damned Osiris. Do you know you've ruined over a decade of my efforts? But on second thought, Andromalius also felt there was no need to be overly anxious. After all, the magic power needed to open the gate between the human and demon worlds was still insufficient. It'll be more effective to kill Pomerian when Hugo loves her even more. How will I kill Pomerian when that time comes? Should I feed her poison and make it seem like she died of illness like Roxana? Or should I use the barbarians like I did with Penelope? No, this time, I'll kill Pomerian in a far more brutal way. But what Andromalius didn't know was, at this time, I had come to the outside of the cave where he was hiding. Seeing the barrier sealed at the cave entrance, I unapologetically used Beelzebub to slice open the surface of the barrier, exposing a large hole. At the same time, Andromalius, who had just been laughing maniacally, suddenly felt something was wrong. He sensed that the barrier he had set up was breached, and someone of unknown strength had broken in. The next second, I walked out from the dim tunnel. Seeing this, Andromalius was utterly baffled. He couldn't believe that I was able to break his barrier. After all, in his mind, I was just a weakling who had only reached the 4th level of sword technique. Brother Set, I've come in response to your invitation. You may not have noticed, but I've been following you. Still, I didn't expect your residence to be so remote and hidden. What were you doing in a spooky place like this? It's like you're the demon responsible for the missing children incident in Underdog City. Hearing this, Andromalius didn't get angry but laughed instead, and then he immediately questioned how I discovered him. So you're not even trying to hide your presence, you demon bastard. Well, there's no reason to. I don't know what gave you the confidence to come here alone without even a weapon, but this all ends once I kill you. After speaking, Andromalius swung his sword in a wide slash. Then, he flashed a wicked smile. However, in the next second, he just stood there dumbfounded because I had chopped off his hand. As Andromalius fell to his knees, he screamed in pain, wondering how I had gotten a weapon. The pain he felt was not just physical, it was as if his very soul had been cut as well. The only thing he could think of was the sword of gluttony, Beelzebub. He then questioned me. How do you have the remains of the ancient demon constellation Gluttonous Fly? Indeed, as demons, you know demons best. How could you have guessed this? As for how I got it, you don't need to know. Then I also unveiled Andromalius's conspiracy. I know you are one of the 10 elite corpses, occupying my brother's body to open the gate between the human and demon world. This made Andromalius wonder if I was really a human, but he quickly dismissed the idea, because he could feel that I had killed countless of his demonic kind. At the same time, my eyes emitted a terrifying murderous intent. Now before me stood the prime culprit who had framed me for crimes in my past life, pretending to be good, deceiving me, and ultimately leading Hugo to send me to the guillotine. Stand, demon. Don't even think about dying peacefully. Before I regressed, destruction fell upon the world. The gate that connected the demon realm and human realm appeared in the sky. When the demons began to invade, we called it the fall. The ones who opened the gate were the 10 high-ranked demons who first came to Earth, the 10 elite corpses. During the long war against the demons, I encountered one of them. The outcome was miserable. Out of the 671 people who joined the battle, 666 died. Out of the 5 survivors, 4 had lost consciousness consciousness, practically only one survivor. The reason why there was a survivor was that the demon wanted to match the number 666. Now, more than a decade before the extinction era is set to begin, who would have thought I would meet one of them? At this moment, seeing the skeletons of the children nearby, the anger accumulated from my past life surged to its peak in an instant. In contrast, Andromalius said with a smug smile, "Don't tell me you want to avenge the children who are left only as bones on the ground. They aren't dead. They're all alive and well inside my stomach." After saying that, each finger on Andromalius's left hand transformed into parts of a child's body, and at the same time, the sounds of children playing and laughing could be heard. But the next second, these sounds turned into crying and struggling. "Brother, save us quickly. We really want to go home. We miss our mom and dad." Hearing this, I swung Beelzebub again, severing his other arm. At that moment, Andromalius knelt on the ground, screaming in pain, and put on an expression as if death were imminent. But in less than half a second, his arms regrew and he flaunted them to me. Regeneration complete. Then Andromalius stood up and said, "I know that you, like me, have hidden many things within the Baskerville family. Even Osiris, a sword genius, only reached the mid-rank graduator at the age of 30, yet you surpassed him perfectly at 17. If you possess the Beelzebub, the likelihood of you becoming the most dangerous human to our kind in the future is very high. So, I need to kill you here. You're the one who's going to die." With that said, we no longer wasted words. Drawing from the first to the fourth sword techniques of Baskerville, we began to clash with sword energies. But as neither side gained an advantage, Andromalius was confident of victory. The reason goes back to the distinctions between the direct, collateral, and illegitimate lines of the Baskerville family. Being of the direct line, he was able to learn up to the sixth sword technique, but it's different for collateral and illegitimate lines. Under Hugo's rules, they could only learn up to the fourth sword technique. In other words, Andromalius only needed to use the sixth sword technique to surely knock me to the ground. However, he never expected me to counter with the same technique. But Andromalius didn't really care. He had already guessed that I hid my true strength during the grand banquet. As we continued to clash with sword energies, a lock of Andromalius's hair suddenly turned into another sword. Suddenly, Andromalius lunged rapidly towards my eyes. Seeing this, I felt no fear at all. After all, in front of my seventh sword technique, Andromalius is nothing. After my sword energy cut through Andromalius's body, I didn't give him time to catch his breath. I swung my sword again, thrusting with the seventh sword technique. At that moment, my sword pierced through Andromalius's body. Demons think they're above humans and look down on them. Fooling big-headed demons is a piece of cake. Even the heroes who closed the gate and ended the fall couldn't find all 10 elite corpses to punish them. But it's different now. The fall has yet to start, and the 10 elite corpses lack power. They are all hiding. If it's now, it might be possible. Then, whispering near Andromalius's ear, I said, "I know there are 9 more demons like you. Your plan is to open the gate between the human and demon worlds. But if I kill you and the others, ruining that plan, will I feel a little bit relieved?" At this moment, Andromalius was no longer pretending to be scared. He was truly trembling all over from my words. Thinking that for the first time he felt fear towards a human, Andromalius was so angry he felt like his lungs were going to explode. With a roar from him, a terrifying pressure instantly emanated from his body. Seeing this, I immediately retreated to dodge. But what I didn't expect was, the blood that appeared turned into a solid spherical form. Before I could ponder what this thing actually was, Andromalius's true form slowly emerged from it. To think that I, Andromalius, would reveal my true form to a mere human. I admit, I am surprised by your unexpected strength, but do not think for a second that you can completely defeat me. With that, Andromalius's fingers transformed into mamba snakes with gaping mouths, and in the next second, they simultaneously attacked spots on my body that could inflict fatal injuries. Seeing this, I responded again with the seventh sword technique. Under my sword energy, the fragile bodies of the mamba snakes could not withstand the force, but Andromalius still laughed mockingly. "Go ahead, hack away, and after you're done, I'll just produce another batch." Unbeknownst to me, as I focused on dodging the connected attacks, Andromalius commanded a snake to launch a sneak attack from behind. The next second, my shoulder was viciously bitten by the mamba snake. Without hesitation, I swiftly cut it down. Seeing this, Andromalius let out a sinister smile and told me that he had won this duel, but I possessed the deadly venom of Madam 8 Legs and a body of iron. Naturally, I am not afraid of what damage this thing can do to me. However, as he waved his hand grandly, a mouth grew on his hand. At that moment, I realized something was wrong. I saw blood continuously emerging from my wound, and this blood was continuously absorbed by the mouth on Andromalius's hand. This is his special power, manipulating blood. Against any living being, he is absolutely invincible. As long as there are injured living beings around, he can endlessly extract blood to achieve immortality. Then, Andromalius kindly reminded me, "Next, I will drain all the blood from your body, and you will die in agonizing struggle, my dear brother." But at this moment, seeing my body gradually being emptied, I unusually showed a mocking smile to my enemy. Seeing this, Andromalius thought I was experiencing a mental breakdown as death approached. Hearing this, I started to taunt him in return. "So that's what the high and mighty demon thinks. It's funny seeing you enjoying yourself when you don't even know what you're absorbing absorbing. Before Andromalius could react, he immediately spat out a large amount of old blood. Then, he felt his magical power and strength being drained as if vacuumed away. It's impossible. Human blood cannot harm me. Tell me, how did you manage to do this? I was not stingy and decided to show Andromalius. I slashed open the main artery on my wrist. The moment my blood touched the ground, the soil instantly corroded and turned black. Andromalius then realized that my own blood was highly toxic, but in his memory, the only poisons that could harm him were from Madame Eight Legs living in the deep forest, the nine-headed snake that lives in the land of the Titans, and the great jellyfish from the depths of the Black Sea, and no other creatures existed. But what terrified him even more was that in front of him, I demonstrated the ultra-fast regenerative ability I acquired from the swamp salamander. As the poison from Madame Eight Legs spread throughout Andromalius's body, the intense pain made him uncontrollably smash his hands against the ground. Seeing this, I taunted, "What's wrong? Isn't drinking human blood your favorite thing? Come and drink mine. I'll definitely give you enough to fill you up." As I thought, the Madame's poison works on the 10 elite corpses. However, its effectiveness depends on their strength, as they have not yet fully recovered. At this moment, I also confirmed something crucial. Having mastered the 7th sword technique of Baskerville and possessing Beelzebub, wiping out the 10 elite corpses of this time period is only a matter of time for me. At the same time, Andromalius deeply knew he might be defeated, so he immediately lifted the seal on the barrier outside the cave. After all, maintaining this status consumed a great deal of his magical power. As for the priority at hand, it was to concentrate magical power and survive as long as possible, letting the other demons hiding in the human world know that there is a monster among humans they need to take seriously now. While I was pondering why Andromalius would lift the barrier, countless droplets of water suddenly appeared behind me, gradually coalescing into a huge sphere, and the originally clear and transparent sphere was quickly covered with blood in a short time. Could this be another terrifying power of Andromalius, to transform nearby water into absorbable blood? Indeed, the 10 corpses are not to be underestimated. Just to be safe, I once again cut my own major artery and added venom to it, while also deliberately reminding Andromalius, if you don't want to accelerate the corrosion inside your body, you might not want to absorb this blood. But after hearing this, Andromalius let out a sinister smile. Water naturally can't give him infinite life like essence blood, but it does have another powerful and strange effect. Immediately after, Andromalius called out in a low voice, "Arise, my blood knights." Suddenly, the water droplets hovering in midair began to fall, and the moment they touched the ground, knights formed from congealed blood appeared before my eyes. In the next second, I was completely surrounded by countless blood knights, with no angle left uncovered. Meanwhile, Andromalius told me that these blood knights, made of blood, can use the Baskerville's 6th technique, which he had learned. Even though I can use the 7th technique, I surely can't go against all of them. I'm going to kill you, and then kill everyone you love. I will make you regret opposing us, the 10 corpses. As for me, knowing I didn't have a guaranteed chance of winning, I decided to use my last resort. This trump card was something I obtained from Hugo. It was a whistle that could command all the hounds, including Hugo and those in the main city. I showed the whistle to Andromalius and said, "Having hidden in Baskerville for so long, you should know about this whistle, right?" Sure enough, upon seeing it, Andromalius's expression began to panic, his face continuously breaking into a cold sweat filled with unease. As for me, I blew the whistle with all my might. The sound quickly burst out of the cave, reaching all the way to Hugo and others waiting in the distance to receive their orders, and my first command to Hugo was to strike the mountain where Andromalius was located with all his might. Meanwhile, on the other side, sensing trouble, Andromalius urgently issued a command, "Kill him quickly." But facing the blood knights about to hit me close up, I felt no fear at all, instead calmly waiting for the first command to be implemented. The next second, I saw the mountain behind me split in half by a tremendous sword energy. The blood knights that were touched also turned into dust in the air in an instant. Then came the second command. All the hounds attacked the mountain to expose it. Seeing this, Andromalius's legs went weak, because right above his head, half of the mountain had vanished. I was wondering why you asked to borrow the power to control all of Baskerville. So it was you can hunt a demon, as expected of my son. At this moment, Andromalius could not believe his eyes. All of the Baskervilles were present. Then, Hugo waved his hand and said, "For the next 6 hours, I hereby declare that Vakir van Baskerville, the possessor of the whistle, is to have full command over our entire force." Hearing this, I commanded, "Everyone, rip him to shreds." Immediately after, the hounds attacked Andromalius all at once. While they were continuously attacking Andromalius, I reminded them, "This demon has the power to suck blood and recover with magic power. Anyone who gets wounded should jump into the poisonous river nearby. We can't help the demon, so all hounds, you are not allowed to get a single scratch." Meanwhile, my 2 uncles, watching from above, also gave their approval, truly worthy of being my nephew, fully understanding how to boost the morale of the hounds. Hugo, "Big brother, I didn't know my nephew was so skilled at leading." But Hugo paid no mind to their words. What concerned him was why he hadn't noticed even his own son Set becoming a demon. On the other hand, Andromalius was still desperately resisting and struggling, hoping for even the slightest chance to escape the siege. In the past, the only one ones he feared were Hugo, the 7 commanders, and Osiris. But now, not only had a powerful newcomer like Fakir emerged, but even the swarms of lesser soldiers joining the fight made it nearly impossible for him to defend himself. At this moment, Andromalius realized that his magic power was running low, and if it were completely depleted, he wouldn't even have the chance to beg for mercy, let alone escape. So, he decided to place his last hope on Osiris. Immediately, he yelled at me, "Can you give me a chance to negotiate? If you agree to spare my life, I swear I will immediately roll out of Set's body right now." Hearing this, I suppressed my emotions and muttered, "Shut up, don't assume that all of us Baskervilles are idiots who only know how to use swords. Our intelligence far surpasses what you demons can imagine." In fact, Andromalius had already anticipated this result. He was merely going through the motions. He didn't place any hope in me. Then, in the next second, Andromalius suddenly begged toward the sky. "Osiris, what do you think? You're not planning to let them kill your younger brother who followed you, are you?" If Andromalius guessed correctly, Osiris, who was usually the most ruthless of the descendants, was actually a soft-hearted and fragile person. If he could get to the bottom of Osiris's heart, he might have a chance to be spared. After hearing this, Osiris did not respond immediately, and seeing a change in his emotions, I reminded him, "Please don't fall for it. The demon is lying." Osiris remained silent and simply continued walking toward Andromalius, stopping right in front of him. "If Set's soul is truly still around, are you saying that I can still help him?" Meanwhile, Andromalius revealed a smug, sinister smile, and the moment he raised his head again, he transformed his face into Set's. "Big brother, I'm really still alive. I'm truly sorry. I shouldn't have made a contract with the demons just to grow stronger. During all those years when Father evaluated me, I was overwhelmed with guilt. Why is there such a vast difference in talent and ability between us, even though we share the same bloodline? I regret selling my soul to the demons. Osiris, please give me a chance to redeem myself." But little did he know, the moment Andromalius finished speaking, he was met with Osiris's most merciless, full-force slash. "Set, to think that this is the only thing I can do for you. It leaves me with a bitter feeling." I told him not to blame himself, because everything that just happened was merely a cunning trick played by the demons. However, Osiris naturally couldn't. He couldn't shake the guilt of the demon approaching Set with intent. If only he had looked after Set properly when they were younger, perhaps things wouldn't have ended like this. Still, it was too early to grieve the corruption and death of a blood relative. He never expected that the damned demons had harmed so many of the Baskerville family's future. As the first heir, he felt deeply ashamed for not acting to stop it sooner. But just then, someone behind us suddenly shouted anxiously, "Look at the sky! That demon's head has grown wings and is flying away." Seeing that he was in a safe position where he couldn't be reached by attacks, Andromalius laughed mockingly, "You're all a bunch of stupid hounds. The opening of the gate might be delayed, but the result of your demise can never be changed. My brothers will do better. Just wait, I will soon recover my body and come for you again." Seeing this, I wanted to do something but felt powerless. Since Andromalius's current position, even with Beelzebub, I couldn't be sure I could hit him. But what I didn't expect was, Hugo suddenly said, "I taught you that a swordsman should never show their back, my son," which inexplicably caused Andromalius to feel fear. What's this feeling? I'm certain that Set completely died, so why do I still feel the fear that Set feels towards Hugo? At the same time, Hugo exuded an overwhelming killing intent. The moment Hugo placed his hand on the sword hilt, everyone around held their breath, for it was well known that he had never revealed his full power since the Empire's unification. He swung his sword behind him, and when nothing seemed to happen, Andromalius was confused. He mocked Hugo, unaware that the clouds above his head had gathered into several sword marks. In the next second, a powerful gust of wind swept through the surroundings. As for Andromalius, he was clearly struck by Hugo's sword marks. Once the attack was over, the special clouds in the sky quickly dissipated, and Andromalius shattered into dust in the air. There was no doubt about it. I was terrified by Hugo's sword technique. Is this the true power of a sword master? A few days later, all the civilians in Baskerville's main city gathered together, discussing the important announcement recently issued by Hugo. Information about the investigation and compensation regarding the missing children case in the territories of the Baskerville. For the parents who had lost their children, this was a moment of relief, until they saw that the mastermind behind the kidnappings was the second son of the Baskerville family. Not long after, Set's birth mother, Nut, was accused of poisoning a snake in the newborn room, accused of poisoning the First Lady Roxana, accused of leaking information to the barbarian tribes that led to the kidnapping of Penelope, and accused of 1,642 cases, including covering up the demon's abduction of children, ultimately being dragged to the execution platform. However, unexpectedly, Nut was not parasitized by a demon, perhaps because her son left her too early. It was the demon's parasitism that allowed her to see Set once again. After that, the servants and trusted aides who served Set were also executed. The main person responsible for all these incidents was Osiris. Under his management and authority, everything proceeded smoothly. After Set's death, I inherited part of his rights. Due to my heroic deeds among the barbarian tribes spreading, and the dissatisfaction of the commoners with the family after the Set incident, many people gradually began to follow and worship me. In the end, after less than a week, I united with with Osiris. We executed all the traitors within Baskerville and used this as a lesson to show all evil forces the might of Baskerville's laws. Before long, Hugo decided to give Pomerian a surprise. "My dear granddaughter, do you see anything different about your grandpa?" After a long look, Pomerian finally noticed. "It's the beard. Grandpa shaved off his beard. What do you think? Don't I look super handsome now?" At that moment, I and Osiris, who had just returned, saw the scene. I silently thought to myself, it seems Hugo truly cares for Pomerian. After all that's happened, he still finds time to play and joke around with her. Now, all those related to Set have been cleared out, and the remnants of the demons hiding in Baskerville have perished. However, I handed over the intel on the other demons to Cindy Wendy, asking her to do her best to locate its hideout. Though I was cursed and criticized endlessly for this, Cindy Wendy finally agreed. As for whether she would return, it was left to fate. That's what she said before leaving. At that moment, Osiris interrupted my thoughts. "Thank you for your hard work, brother. You'll be late for the academy if you try to deal with every related case yourself. Start getting ready for the academy." I told Osiris that the main city was still in chaos, and I had to stay and help deal with it. But Osiris opposed my decision. "This is a direct order from Father. You do not have the right to disobey." After saying that, Osiris suddenly smiled faintly. "In fact, Father has always been very worried about you, afraid that the incident might hurt you. Although this makes me feel like I just met Father for the first time, he really does care about you. He is just clumsy with the way he expresses himself. Since I am said to resemble Father the most, you can trust my words." Hearing this, I glanced at Hugo. At that moment, he was humbly asking John to help braid Pomerian's hair. "Master, you're mistaken. That step should be done the other way around." I never expected Hugo to be able to do something like this. It really opened my eyes. It seems I really need to seriously consider that matter. I shouldn't view everything in this life through the lens of my past life. Even before my rebirth, my life was bound by chains, and under its control, I could only follow Hugo like a puppet, so much so that I didn't even realize that Hugo's situation was exactly the same as mine. Back then, he was being pulled aimlessly by demons hiding within the family. Everything I knew in this life is changing, from the childhood engagement with Camus to the small moments with Ian during the barbarian period, the meeting with Chihuahua, finding Pomerian in the Rococo tribe, the hidden side of Hugo's heart, the terrifying power of the 10 corpses, and the emotional expressions of Osiris. At this moment, Pomerian kept repeating, "I love you, Grandpa." In that instant, all thoughts of revenge against Baskerville were completely wiped away. I never expected that without the chain, Hugo could still have such a side. I'm sure of it now. The Hugo I needed to take revenge against no longer exists. It seems it's time to bid farewell to my past self. The chains that once bound me have finally broken, and now, my past self is free. Goodbye, past me. I now know the path I must take in the future. At that moment, I turned around, squatted down, picked up the chain that had once tightly bound me, and gripped it tightly. There's no doubt, I will use this leash to bind those on the other end, and the real revenge begins here. Time quickly passed, and soon the day of the Colossio Academy entrance ceremony arrived, buzzing with the Academy's club recruitments. There are 2 classes in the Academy. The Ice Corps are the members who specialize in swords, bows, spears, and more, while the Fire Corps is made up of those who specialize in magic. Over their 4 years, students not only hone their skills in these fields but also learn a variety of general knowledge. At this moment, the Academy's major clubs grew busier with recruitment as this year's competition intensified due to the remarkable new students. One of them is Tudor from the Don Quixote family, known for his exceptional spearmanship, and Bianca from the Usher family, renowned for her archery skills. They tied for first place in the Ice Corps practical exam and are the first on the desired people list. Following them in 3rd, 4th, and 5th place are the Baskerville triplets. On the other hand, the one who's gaining the most attention in the Ice Corps is Sinclair. She ranked 1st in the practical test and 2nd in theory. Her outstanding grades were recorded. As for the one who came 1st in the theory exam, that was Vakir. Of course, the Academy still values practical combat skills. Otherwise, someone like me, who ranked 1st in the theory exam, would not have been overlooked. People like me are often labeled as bookworms. Before entering the Academy, I had to give up the Baskerville surname. I hid all my strength and pretended to be a commoner. The reason for this was that my original identity had been recognized by the royal family, and in the capital of the empire, almost everyone knew me. So by using a false identity to enter, I wouldn't attract too much attention. At this moment, the recruitment area for clubs nearby caught my attention, and in the middle stood Dollars, the saintess of the Quo Vadis family. The people around her were all fans who admired her. From Dollars' self-introduction, it seems she is not only the school president, but also the president of the newspaper club. Such a position truly suits her saintess identity. However, unless necessary, it's best that I avoid meeting her. Afterward, I arrived at the Colossio Academy dormitory building. I found the student dormitory I was assigned to. At this moment, someone beside me called out, "It looks like you're the roommate I'll be living with for the next 4 years. My name is PG. Nice to meet you." When I saw him, I was quite surprised. In my past life, I had a very deep impression of him. When I came to the academy to assist the 3 brothers, PG often looked out for me, always the nice guy. But because his combat abilities weren't that great, his nightmares soon began, and the final outcome was quite tragic. tragic. I hope that my presence in this life can prevent him from going through the same fate again. At that moment, PG smiled and said to me, "Go ahead and pick a bed. I'll take whichever one is left." As expected, this guy's personality hasn't changed at all. Then, PG invited me to attend tonight's freshman welcome party, saying that if you don't make good connections with your classmates or seniors, the next 4 years will definitely be tough. But I declined his kind invitation. PG was confused by my response, then anxiously said to me, "If you don't go, you'll be left out by others, and that won't benefit you at all. But if you do go, there are actually quite a few advantages. You can meet the school president Dollars and those other new students who are quite powerful. If you get along with them, it's definitely worth it." That's right, PG's specialty is collecting information, and his analytical skills are quite impressive. At this point, PG assumed that these factors would convince me, but the next second, his expression changed drastically. I rejected him once again. Without turning my head, I walked out of the dormitory. Have fun, PG. As for me, I have more important matters to attend to. In the blink of an eye, night fell. I put on my night hound suit and prepared to begin my actions. At the same time, in a corner of the city, 3 mercenaries were gathering around a fire, chatting. Their duty was to guard the warehouse door behind them, but their activities were quite dirty. The warehouse contained kidnapped children, specifically for the orphanages managed by the Quo Vadis family. Suddenly, a loud shout interrupted their conversation. "Know what to say and what not to say. You'd better be clear about it, or you'll bring trouble to yourself." The one who spoke was their captain, Ron Badison, also known as the Flesh Grinder. After scolding his subordinates, he prepared to go look for some late-night food, but suddenly, someone called his name from behind. Thinking it was one of his subordinates, he became very angry, drew his sword from his back, and was ready to teach them a lesson. However, when Ron turned around, all of his subordinates lay dead on the ground. This scared him so much that he couldn't even speak properly. "Who the hell are you? What's your purpose here?" I didn't respond directly, because killing such a person didn't require any sympathy. In my past life, he sacrificed 4 neighbors' lives to sign a contract with a demon, then joined the Northern Guild Association, and had repeatedly sold human intelligence to demons. While on guard duty, he used a hand mirror to expose the platoon's camp location, leading to the massacre of the ally platoon. At this moment, after Ron located my position, he immediately raised his twin swords and charged at me. But the next second, my Beelzebub had already severed both of his arms, and the intense pain overwhelmed his entire body. "Who the hell are you? Why are you trying to kill me?" I coldly told him. "Of course, that hasn't happened yet. I know you've signed a contract with a demon, so if you want to live, you better honestly reveal all the information about that demon." But at the moment I finished speaking, Ron's face twisted and swelled, and eventually, his head exploded from the invisible force. It seems like the same result again. These people seem to be under some kind of curse. I've experienced the same result 3 times since I began killing names on this blacklist. This was created with the memories of my past life and Cindy Wendy's investigation. It contains information about the demon worshippers who sided with the demons and betrayed mankind. They must be eliminated before the time of the fall. If I'm not mistaken, their heads exploding before I could kill them is likely the demon's unique ability, and this guy must be hiding somewhere in the capital. Before long, this happened around 29 times. Whenever I tried to interrogate these traitors or obtained any trace of the 10 elite corpses, without exception, their heads would explode. Still, I didn't expect to get anything on my first day. I must return to the academy quickly to prevent my actions from being exposed. But just as I arrived at the academy, I realized the freshman welcome party hadn't ended yet, so I immediately took off my night suit, changed into the clothes required for the party, and prepared to show my face briefly at the scene. After all, there was nothing to do while I was idle. Inside, the students were enjoying their food, and Dollars was still surrounded by her adoring fans. At that moment, I saw several familiar faces. I really didn't expect to run into them at this age. In the past, during the time of the fall, under Camus' leadership, they helped humanity win the final victory. One of them was the person who stood at the front line of the battlefield and took charge, Tutor La Mancha Don Quixote, and the archer who defeated countless demons, Bianca F.O. Usher. Besides them, I recognized many familiar faces from the battlefield. Who would have thought I would see them again like this? Meanwhile, something happening not far away caught my attention. My roommate, PG, was being stopped by several upperclassmen. They wanted PG to perform a song for everyone. One of the women loudly shouted, "Everyone, come over here. The freshman is going to perform for us." When PG refused to comply with the order, the woman suggested giving him a punishment. She brought over a large bucket of rum and ordered PG to drink it, otherwise, she would not let him off easily. PG wanted to escape, but he found himself already surrounded by their people. Under the continued pressure from the upperclassmen, PG had no choice but to obediently comply. He grabbed the bucket of rum and started drinking wildly, while they watched him like they were enjoying a clown show. Even when PG started vomiting from the disgust, they still didn't feel the slightest remorse. On the contrary, they felt a sense of accomplishment. Even more disgusting, they demanded that PG lick the floor clean like a dog. Seeing these people getting more and more outrageous, I finally decided to help PG out of this situation. Before I regressed, PG dropped out of school because he couldn't endure the bullying. He became a low-ranked government official and lived a tough life while looking after his parents. I met PG again at the front line after the time of the fall started. He was one of the few who volunteered to go to the front lines. With his amazing strategy and information analysis, he saved multiple lives. So PG was also a comrade I respected, and I would not allow others to bully him in front of me. PG, I'll take care of this, so return to the dorm first. Naturally, what I said would definitely anger the upperclassmen. Hey, who are you? Do you think you can disobey a senior? Considering how you arrogantly stepped and seems like you're confident. Little did he know, at the moment he mocked me, a murderous aura suddenly erupted from behind him. My 3 younger brothers, who recognized me as their master, simply couldn't stand it. But with just a look from me, the anger they had just stirred up was immediately scared back. Earlier, I had warned the 3 of them that my identity at the academy was not a Baskerville, but a commoner. If anyone found out my true identity, they'd better hope they lived to see the next sunrise. At that moment, the woman spoke again, saying that the new student was ignorant and needed to be taught by the seniors. Then she thought of an interesting punishment. Drink it all, and we'll let you 2 go. PG, hearing this, hoped I would leave, as he didn't want me to cause harm to innocent people because of him. But I didn't listen to him. If this was the only way to let PG off the hook, I would drink the cup of alcohol myself. Seeing this, the seniors expected me to collapse in pain and make a fool of myself, as they had mixed the rum with high concentration vodka, which would be an invisible poison to the stomach. However, as the drink level lowered, their faces grew increasingly awkward. They couldn't believe it, that a commoner's body had no adverse symptoms after drinking it. Afterward, I helped PG leave in their shock, but just then, some fool stepped forward to stop me. Did I permit you to leave? But just as his harsh words were halfway out, the killing intent I exuded when I turned around was enough to scare him. At this moment, Dollars, hearing the commotion, walked over and scolded. Why is it so chaotic over there? You can't treat the freshmen cruelly. We need to uphold the image of the academy. Hearing this, the others anxiously said, No, President, it's not like you think. A new student drank so much alcohol he threw up. We're just cleaning up after him. Seeing this, the triplets give a thumbs up. As expected, our master is really cool. At this moment, a girl with white hair appeared in the crowd. She was drawn in by my good deed just now. She was Sinclair, ranked first in the Ice Core practical exam and second in the theory exam. She excitedly exclaimed, I found a nice person. After the new student welcome party ended last night, official classes began the next day. To quickly create a competitive atmosphere between the Ice Core and the Fire Core, and to increase the level of engagement in the lessons, this year, all cultural theory classes would be scheduled at the same time, with everyone sitting in the same classroom. At this moment, Professor Vinci Morg closed his textbook. Today's comprehensive lecture on the barbarian tribes will conclude here. Based on the geographical location of the barbarian tribes' battles, who can deduce where their stronghold is? For a moment, nearly most of the students fell into intense thought, including the top one in actual combat from the Ice Corps. Although they were extremely skilled in combat techniques, their performance in theory was simply dreadful. Just then, Sinclair from the Fire Corps raised her hand. Professor, let me answer it. Vinci Morg gave his approval. Go ahead. Then, Sinclair answered in an extremely formal manner. According to the papers and announcements passed from the frontline military to academia, the battles with the barbarians mostly take place on high ground, except for the battle in the basin at the bottom of Peak 8. So I deduced that they mostly live in basins surrounded by natural defenses on all sides. Meanwhile, I was still trying to find useful clues from what happened last night. Since the traitors I dealt with all shared the same traits, after death, they not only emit the distinct foul odor of demons, but once any information about the 10 elite corpses is revealed, their heads will explode from a force. If the latter is truly the unique ability of the demons hidden in the capital, then there is one place that I can think of. I should ask Cindy Wendy to investigate around that area. But at that moment, Professor Vinci Morg was infuriated by a student from the Ice Corps. In all my years of teaching, I've never had a student dare to sleep in my class. You're the first. Indeed, the person Vinci Morg was talking about was me. Hearing this, PG, sitting next to me, hurriedly told me to stop sleeping. The professor is really angry now, and I, coming to my senses, claimed that I was merely closing my eyes, not actually sleeping. Thinking I was arguing, Vinci Morg became even angrier. So you mean to say, my eyes deceived me? Alright then. Because of Sinclair's answer, the Ice Corps has earned 1 behavior point. If you can correctly answer the question I'm about to ask, I will give you and the Ice Corps the points. However, if you answer it wrong, the whole Ice Corps will have negative points. Upon hearing this, I exclaimed, that's unfair. But before I could finish speaking, Vinci Morg posed the question. Tell me, based on the locations of the battles between the Empire's military and the Balak tribe, can you deduce where their stronghold is? Hearing this question, Bianca was quite annoyed. Because of that idiot, everyone in the Ice Corps is going to be at loss. At the same time, some students no longer believed anyone at the scene could answer the question, because the papers on the Balaks were extremely scarce, and no freshman could possibly give the correct answer. I naturally understand that many people would have grievances against me. This is a normal reaction for a student. However, remembering Ian and the others from the Balaks, I smiled at the corner of my mouth. I thought it was some difficult problem, but it's actually so simple. After hearing my analysis, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. Having lived in Balaks for 2 years, I knew it all too well, and after the incident with the human, not only had their strongholds changed, but many many of the habits they commonly used had also been altered under my suggestion. At this point, Vinci Morg thought to himself, this is impossible. He got every single part of it right. How does he know about the thesis that hasn't been verified by the academic world? But soon, Vinci Morg realized why I was so good at this. The guy seemed to be called Vakir, right? Is he the one who placed first on the theory exam? But since I answered correctly, Vinci Morg awarded me 10 points, while the rest of the Ice Corps received 1 each. However, to regain some of his authority as a professor, Vinci Morg confiscated the 10 points he had just awarded me. Even though Vakir, you placed first in the theory exam, you're never allowed to sleep in my class. Hearing this, I responded, I'll be careful next time. At this moment, Sinclair also noticed me. So you're that Vakir. At the same time, the students present started discussing among themselves. As for Tutor, he became a bit interested in me, and he was somewhat curious, so he's the smartest when it comes to theory. I wonder if that will be useful during the practical lessons. The scene shifted, and it was now time for physical education class. The students would play a ball game called Run Flat, where magic and weapons were forbidden by the rules. No matter the method, the team that scores by getting the ball into the opposing goal wins. As soon as the referee blew the whistle, the match officially began. The first header attack was led by Tutor, and his speed was incredibly fast, easily shaking off the encirclement of people. The Don Quixote family, famous for their spearmanship, was indeed formidable. Their agility and speed were both maxed out. The little fangirls outside the court cheered for the handsome Tutor, but only Bianca felt that this competition, like barbarians, was just about charging recklessly. At this moment, just as Tutor had shaken off the encirclement, he was stopped by the 3 brothers. Arrogant guy, where do you think you're going? If you want to score, you'll have to get past us. Tutor knew that these 3 were not easy to deal with, so he wasn't going to confront them head on, and instead used several feints. In no time, he had confused the 3 brothers, leaving them lost in every direction. But they weren't pushovers, and Hyburo quickly blocked Tutor's path again. Seeing this, Tutor decided to face him head on. He gathered his strength in his hand, then threw an attack that sent Hyburo flying. The depth of the dent in Hyburo's abdomen made it clear how powerful Tutor's strike really was. Soon, the defenders started to tire, which allowed Tutor to get closer and closer to the goal. But at that moment, Tutor discovered that the goalkeeper was actually me. Naturally curious, he decided to test how this bookworm would defend against his attack. Friend, I hope you can take this incident as a lesson, and while focusing on theoretical studies, you should also pay attention to your physical fitness. Unexpectedly, in the next second, Tutor flew into the air. As for me, I remained standing unharmed at the spot despite the impact from the other side. Seeing that Tutor didn't wake up immediately after falling, and noticing the strange expressions on the people around, I quickly adopted a tactical strategy and collapsed onto the grass. Though I wasn't sure if I could fool the audience, at least I had to pretend that I am injured. After what seemed like an eternity, Tutor finally woke up, but it seemed like his memory of what happened was incomplete. He only remembered that the moment he collided with me, he blacked out. But how could a bookworm like him possibly cause any harm? Or was it that I tripped myself up? To find out the reason, Tutor decided to try again. As the match returned to normal, Tutor's team was still the attacking side, and the defending team knew full well his strength. So, they increased their efforts to surround him. But at that moment, everyone on the sidelines was confused. The goal was right in front of where Tutor had been standing just moments ago, yet Tutor unexpectedly turned and charged from the side. As for the triplets, although they immediately saw through the plan, in the face of Tutor's agility, they couldn't catch him. After shaking off the triplets' defense, Tutor focused his attack on me ahead. I was speechless at this, vowing to give these 3 fools extra practice after class. I had already said not to let anyone get too close to me, or my identity would easily be exposed. Little did I know, just as I was frustrated, Tutor had already used his family's secret technique. This time, he was really giving it his all, convinced that nothing could go wrong. But things didn't go as planned, and as soon as he collided with me, his vision went black again. When he finally woke up, everything that had happened was exactly the same as the first time, and his memory was once again incomplete. Seeing this, Sancho calmly tried to comfort him, and told him what he had observed with his own eyes. You collided with Vakir at an incredible speed, and then you flew into the air. At the same time, I also understood why you were so determined to charge at him. That guy must be hiding something. I will go against him this time. My friend was done over by him twice. I can't just watch and do nothing. Meanwhile, seeing Sancho grab the ball and set his sights on my position, the triplets quickly set up a defensive stance. This time, they swore they wouldn't let anyone pass. But just then, Sancho didn't even think about dodging. He simply charged straight ahead. The strategy was simple. Never look back, ignore all obstacles, and the trio of idiots was ruthlessly knocked away. I was left speechless. This defense was truly a massive failure. Then, I looked back and gave them a murderous glance. The triplets, seeing it, had no words to express their remorse. The opponent was as strong as an ox. How could their small frames possibly stop him? As Sancho got closer to me, I came up with a clever plan and decided to stay still. In contrast, Sancho held nothing back, raising his arm and gathering strength. Then, with a mighty blow, he struck my abdomen. Little did he know, in the next second, his whole body went numb, and he felt that the moment his hand made contact with my abdomen, it was like hitting the surface of a mountain, rough and and solid, unable to push or break it. But this was the key to my clever plan. I was definitely going to play along with these people trying to test my strength and put on a show. I pretended to quickly fall backwards, and my fake inertia made me fly out of the field. As expected, it worked. Neither the people inside nor outside the field noticed I was faking it. Meanwhile, the numbness in Sancho's hand still hadn't worn off. He stood there, stunned and bewildered. While Sancho was lost in thought, Highborough quietly sneaked up. After successfully stealing the ball, he didn't look back and rushed towards the opponent's goal. In the end, he secured the victory with a 1-0 score. The other teammates treated triplets as the heroes, but they didn't know that the real game changer was me. At this moment, someone poured cold water on my head. The real hero behind the victory is you, Vakir, so you shouldn't just stand there. Then, Tutor chimed in, be happier, your victory made me retire. I was going to teach you a lesson during practical lessons because I was jealous of you, but I realized how shameful that was. I'm sorry. However, Sancho still really wanted to know one thing. What exactly did I eat growing up? Until now, he had never encountered a tougher opponent than himself. At first, he even thought I had secretly used magic. Hearing this, I told them I was a commoner, so I can't use magic. As a result, while Tutor felt regret, he also told me, with your physical condition, just practice a little, and you'll easily become an expert like me. While we were talking, 3 of Tutor's female fans walked up behind us. They were here to give us towels. And now, things were getting more and more interesting. Meeting old teammates from the past during school days, getting to know them so early, would definitely be a bonus when dealing with the 10 corpses in the future. But just then, Sancho's expression became dazed, Tutor's expression was surprised, and the female classmates present all blushed. It was because when I took off my glasses to wipe away the sweat, my true appearance was revealed to them. Before long, night fell again, and I began my nighttime mission. The traitor in front of me was the head of the orphanage in the Imperial City. Having repeatedly engaged in illegal activities with demons until now, he had been continuously supplying the demons with children stolen from people. At this moment, when he saw the energy appearing on my sword, he was very shocked. This was the level that a sword master could reach. But in reality, I knew that my energy was just barely approaching the level of liquid. To be specific, I'm at the highest level of graduator. Work with me to catch the demon. If you do, I will compensate you accordingly. Before he could respond, a massive stone shard suddenly appeared above my head. Sensing the danger, I quickly dodged, while the traitor was crushed to pieces. Looking towards the source of the killing intent, I was certain that the opponent was far from ordinary, and it was highly likely one of the 10 elite corpses hiding in the Imperial City. Suddenly, the man in a suit swung a large hammer and charged straight at where I stood. Seeing this, I quickly dodged to the side, but the masked man's basic attack was indeed something. It directly created a huge hole in the thick cement ground. At this point, I saw him grab the large hammer again, aiming with near certainty to strike me. I predicted the attack and successfully dodged, but then he suddenly stopped. It was then that I realized something was wrong. The next second, a powerful pressure suddenly exploded from around the large hammer. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and summoned Beelzebub to block it, narrowly avoiding any injury. However, from this, I also caught some reliable information, which was that the masked man was not one of the 10 elite corpses, but rather someone from the Quo Vadis family. This was because the attack he had just used was from the Quo Vadis family known as bludgeoning technique. This left me quite puzzled, since the Quo Vadis family is supposed to represent holiness and sanctity, and demons would certainly be considered their natural enemies. So why did the masked man have the smell of a demon? Could it be that demons have infiltrated even the Quo Vadis family? It seems I'll have to ask Cindy Wendy to investigate this matter secretly afterward. And now, since I already know that the other side is also a traitor, there's no harm in killing one more today. I'll take this opportunity to warm up before finding the 10 elite corpses. Perhaps defeating him will lure one of them out. At this moment, the masked man thought he had caught a gap in my defense, and he immediately swung the large hammer again, leaping into the air. Seeing this, I didn't choose to dodge, but instead, I directly went head-to-head with him, casually executing an uppercut kick, easily blocking his attack. This left the masked man stunned. He knew very well that he had used all his strength, so how could a mere mortal possibly withstand it? Meanwhile, I seized this moment to gather my strength, and then began to unleash a flurry of punches to the masked man's chest. Then, I delivered a powerful, precise blow. Under the influence of inertia, the masked man, though he had already regained his balance, was still sent flying hundreds of meters away. At the same time, I took a step and jumped to follow. As the threat closed in again, the masked man swung his weapon to resist, but against absolute power, it was futile. In the next second, I swiftly appeared behind, and then with a downward elbow strike, I disabled his right arm. Next, I grabbed the clothes on his chest, and with the momentum from my body's rotation, I easily threw the masked man again, letting the iron bar pierce his abdomen, and the intense pain caused him unbearable suffering. As I walked towards him, I saw the mark on his chest, Ephibo. I guessed that this was most likely the masked man's name. I had originally planned to interrogate him about who had turned him into this, and who was pulling the strings behind the scenes, but it seemed that trying to get any useful information through questioning was hopeless. However, I still had another method to replace interrogation. As long as I disassemble each part of the masked man's body and investigate the condition of his internal organs, bone structure, and the freshness and concentration of his blood, etc., I should be able to gather some useful clues. Efebo, shall we start the interrogation? But just then, from the location where the giant stone had fallen, came an urgent cry for help. When I moved the broken stones above, I discovered that the headmaster is still alive. This guy really has some tough luck. If you want to live, tell me everything you know. Little did I know, on the rooftop, an unidentified man was watching all of this unfold, and in order to save his life, the headmaster of the orphanage agreed. In my office is safe. There's what you want. Then, he begged me to protect him at all costs, because, but before he could finish, I sensed killing intent. As I turned to investigate, the headmaster's mouth began spewing out heads one after another. The next second, his body suddenly emitted a green light. With the sound of an explosion, the on-duty soldiers sounded the alarm, and the soldiers escorting dollars also went on high alert. What exactly is going on? There are likely injuries at the scene. We need to hurry over and take a look. Soon, the explosion site was filled with Imperial soldiers, and looking at the surrounding devastation, Dollars was very confused. She couldn't understand what major event had happened here in such a short time. But suddenly, Dollars' gaze was drawn to something on the ground. It was a piece of the Hound suit. To avoid being spotted by the patrolling soldiers, she immediately pretended to be anemic, squatted down to rest, and discreetly covered it with her skirt. Could it be that the Hound was here just now? Before long, it was time for the tedious and dull class, and Vency Morg was really quite boring. He once again tried to make me mess up on purpose. Vakir, please introduce the academic report on the Scorpion Demon to the class. For me, this was naturally very easy, but when I said that the Scorpion Demon has 2 poisonous stingers as means of attack, Vency Morg immediately reprimanded me for making nonsense, saying that the Scorpion Demon only has 1 poisonous stinger on its tail, and that the second one I mentioned doesn't exist. Hearing this, I was numb. I didn't expect that. In this time period, the hidden poisonous stinger of the Scorpion Demon hadn't been discovered yet. So, to prove I wasn't wrong, I had Vency Morg follow my instructions. Little did he know, as soon as he picked up the scalpel and began to cut open the Scorpion Demon's heart, the hidden poisonous stinger suddenly shot out. The students present were all startled by the scene, but luckily, I quickly raised my notebook to block it. Otherwise, Vency Morg wouldn't have been able to react in time, and in the worst case, he could have lost his life. At that moment, Vency Morg, who was so scared he almost wet himself, never expected that the Scorpion Demon actually had 2 poisonous stingers. This also explained the strange incident where a certain investigation team lost their lives years ago. Then, Vency Morg even invited me to the lab after class to discuss this matter in detail, and thanks to my excellent performance, the students' expectations of me grew. For the first time, I felt like being good at studies could actually make me look really cool. I remember Vakir also performed well in PE. Both Tutor and Sancho were no match for him, but compared to both academics and sports, they were more focused on the fact that my appearance hidden behind my glasses was simply too attractive. Reflecting back on the events from last night as I returned to my seat, after that huge explosion, I was severely affected because I didn't have time to dodge. Fortunately, I had the healing ability of a swamp salamander, otherwise, I'd definitely be dead. But when I went back to find the masked man, he vanished without a trace. The only reliable information I got was the ledgers hidden in the safe of the headmaster of the orphanage. However, the ledgers only contained records of children being trafficked to various locations, which frequently changed. With this information, it's indeed hard to determine where the 10 elite corpses are hiding. But the most important point is who exactly is the mastermind behind this explosion? Why is he wearing the Colossio Academy uniform? Could it be that one of the 10 elite corpses are hiding in the academy? The scene shifts. At this moment, Dollars, the president of the newspaper club, was very happy to learn that several new members had joined today. Welcome to the team. Please bring unlimited potential to the newspaper club in the future. Now, let's have everyone introduce themselves. I'm Tutor La Mancha Don Quixote from the first year of the Ice Corps. Be it study or club activities, I want to become an elite who does well in everything. I'm Sancho Barataria from the first year of the Ice Corps. I don't want everyone to think I'm just big and useless. I plan to apply my wisdom in a new field where my talents are most needed. I'm Sinclair from the first year of the Fire Corps. I believe that intelligence is the most reliable thing, aside from money and power, so I chose to join the source of information, the newspaper club. I'm Bianca F.O. Usher from the first year of the Ice Corps. I believe the newspaper club has the most potential, so I chose it. In addition, PG, who is skilled at gathering and analyzing intelligence, also joined. After all, this is practically his calling. My name is Vakir. I came here because the academy requires credits for club participation, so I just followed my roommate, PG. If nothing goes wrong, as long as I join, I can easily get the information I want. But the only thing that gives me a headache is that the president is Saintus Dollars. But just then, Dollars suddenly got furious. If you, Vakir, came here just to earn credits, you might be eliminated by me today. Unbeknownst to her, before she could finish speaking, the vice president of the club, Anna, rushed out with today's newspaper and said, "This is you, right? I knew you looked so familiar." It turns out that yesterday when I was washing my face, I was photographed by Anna, who focuses on capturing handsome new students, and because your looks were so striking, it made it onto the academy's hot list. just like that, Anna had me admitted into the newspaper club, and because of the severe impact of last night's explosion, the newspaper club had to come up with a name for the incident. Decided to have the new members sit down together and brainstorm. At that point, Anna speculated, I believe the mastermind behind the explosion is likely the same person responsible for the recent frequent murder cases around the imperial capital. When PG saw the skeletons of several children, he quietly asked me, Vakir, who do you think this strange person could be? Upon hearing that, I didn't respond, because there was much information on the paper that I didn't know. I needed to analyze it carefully. Next came the time for choosing a name. Tutor confidently suggested first, how about Master of Undead Shadows? Since his suggestion had nothing to do with the event at hand, it was immediately rejected. Aside from that, some thought of the demon who brought the unfortunate bomb, others thought of the killer from the orphanage, and yet others thought of Mr. Terrorist. As for Dollars, she unknowingly proposed Night Hound. She named it based on the fragment of the headgear she had secretly hidden, and naturally, she wanted to know why the Night Hound, which she was familiar with, suddenly appeared last night. Recently, he had sincerely saved the resident from the slums who suffered from the Red Death Plague. His dedication was absolutely genuine. Although he had secretly stolen the holy water she made, Dollars still believed that the Night Hound must have taken it to save people. I trust my judgment of people's eyes. The Night Hound is definitely not the one behind the explosion, and he certainly didn't destroy the orphanage. Even if he is the culprit, he must have his reasons. At that moment, PG thought the name Night Hound was quite good, not only because it had the brutal, barbaric style of naming, but it also gave off an air of mystery. At the same time, everyone present agreed, and the headline of this issue of the newspaper was set as Night Hound. It was at this moment that Dollars realized she was mumbling out loud. Meanwhile, since there was no concrete evidence yet, Anna had to phrase it more subtly. Night Hound has plunged the imperial capital into crisis. Who exactly are they? At this moment, Tutor asked, Vakir, do you think the Night Hound is a good person or a bad person? I bluntly said he was a bad person, but to my surprise, my words angered Dollars. May I ask why you're so certain he's a bad person? Upon hearing that, I felt a chill in my heart. How the hell am I supposed to answer this? Seeing that I wasn't responding, Dollars' words became sharper. You can't answer, can you? That means I can conclude you haven't thought it through, and you're just saying things without any evidence to back it up. You're a formal member of the newspaper club now, so every word must be precise. At that moment, Tutor chimed in. I remember the soldiers on patrol that night gave relevant testimony, and the Night Hound has the strongest suspicion of destroying the orphanage. Upon hearing this, Dollars had no rebuttal, but before any evidence is confirmed, such testimony would only be considered as speculation. Moreover, part of the incident occurred in the basement of the orphanage, and how the children died remains a mystery. But if it really was the Night Hound's doing, there must be more strange elements involved. Upon hearing this, everyone present was puzzled, thinking to themselves, how can President Dollars, whose family manages the orphanage, take such a neutral stance on the matter? Then, with nothing more to say, Anna and the others agreed. Alright, until we prove that the Night Hound is the culprit, we should stay as objective as possible, without favoring either side. After all, we can write the blame report once we have solid evidence. However, if that guy really is a bad person, then we can criticize him harshly. Unexpectedly, before Dollars could finish her words, the door of the meeting room was suddenly pushed open by a member of the newspaper club. Bad news. President, Professor Vency Morg, the club's advisor, is asking for you. He's demanding that you immediately revise the report on the Night Hound and state that the Night Hound is a bad person. Upon hearing this, Dollars was speechless. This old man really hasn't changed at all. I understand. I'll go talk to the professor. Just as Dollars stepped out of the meeting room, the sound of heated arguments immediately came from outside. Since Vency Morg's views were drastically different from hers, it was no surprise they were having a loud dispute. Vakir, do you think the president is quite tenacious, extraordinary, and admirable? I gave an affirmative answer. After all, before I regressed, Dollars still maintained this attitude. When some frontline soldiers hesitated and were too scared to go to the battlefield, she would be the first to encourage their morale, and when frontline soldiers were injured, she would do everything she could to provide medical support from the rear. That being said, I did indeed expect to be regarded as a bad person. Thank you, Dollars, for daring to defy the higher-ups' orders to prove the Night Hound's innocence. Time quickly moved to the next day, and at 6 in the morning, the harsh wake-up bell rang through the academy. Next, all the students were required to gather on the sports field to start their day with a light jog. Afterward, some students would go back to catch up on sleep, while others would take a shower or have breakfast first. At this point, PG complained that morning exercise was pure torture because he felt his brain was sluggish. So, I decided to explain to him, morning exercise is meant to activate the brain cells. I guess it's because you stay up too late and are sleep deprived. On the other hand, Tutor said, Vakir, you need to be more compassionate, or no female classmates will take an interest in you. Try comforting PG's fragile heart. Hell no, I'm not a gay. Getting back to the point, Tutor and the others decided to go to the city during the weekend break. Vakir, why don't you come with us? Staying at the academy all the time will just make you bored. Upon hearing this, I immediately rejected them, telling them that I had to attend a charity event over the weekend. But just as I was about to leave, the three of them suddenly changed their minds. Doing charity seems interesting, interesting, so why don't we join the cure? The more the merrier. However, there was a reason they wanted to follow me. Tudor and Sancho had long believed that as long as they stayed close to me, a mysterious aura of leadership would radiate from me, making people think that following my lead was always right. PG felt the same way. Whether it was academics or sports, he admired me. So, he believed that as long as he was around me, he would inevitably learn new things without realizing it. Suddenly, my gaze turned murderous. PG thought my expression was meant for him, but he didn't know I had other intentions. As we passed by a student with 2 female students, I once again smelled that nauseating stench. Without a doubt, the guy in the middle was one of the 10 elite corpses hiding in the academy. I then asked PG, "Do you know that guy? You must be talking about the one standing in the middle of the girls, right? He's a second-year heartthrob, Bane Kaudzak." But the current situation was not ideal for me to take action. If I were to force it, there would certainly be many casualties, and I couldn't let the future hero who would stop the era of Annihilation be harmed in any way. I then made up an excuse. "I'm feeling a bit unwell today, so I'm going to head back to the dorm to rest." Immediately after, I activated a silent heal skill, concealing my presence. Just as I took off my glasses and was about to chase after him, Dollars appeared at the corner of the stairs. Suddenly, we bumped into each other. Seeing this, Tudor and the others ran over and asked, "President Dollars, are you okay? And as for you, Vakir, aren't you going to apologize?" I did as instructed, but at the same time, Dollars admitted that she was at fault first. She had been in such a hurry to get things done that she didn't slow down when she reached the corner. However, Dollars was very puzzled at that moment. Clearly, I was just a weak bookworm, yet when we collided, I didn't even take a single step back. Moreover, she didn't sense my presence at all. On the other hand, I decided to delay my plans. There were too many people around watching me, so it was better to delay following that guy. Meanwhile, on Bane's side, he had already led the 2 girls to a very dark secret base. The girls were scared and wanted to leave, but they couldn't resist Bane's pitiful look. "I brought you here to talk about something really upsetting. Recently, someone has suddenly disturbed my life, making me unable to eat properly. I was going to see who he was, but that guy saw me in my school uniform, so he must have realized that I'm a student of the academy." Upon hearing this, the 2 girls began brainstorming ideas. What they didn't know was that the real villain standing between them was Bane. With a swift motion, Bane stretched out his hands, then grabbed their faces. In the next moment, the girls' faces were transferred to Bane's hands. That guy definitely didn't die in that explosion. From his aura, he at least has the level a high-ranked graduator. Plus, all the people he's killed recently have been related to my food, which clearly indicates he sensed the presence of demons. This means he's definitely the one who killed Andromalius. This demon is the 9th of 10 elite corpses, Dantalion. Meanwhile, due to the recent series of cases and accidents in the Imperial capital, the Academy's newspaper club was severely understaffed, so Anna and Dollars decided to involve the new first-year students. At this point, the table was filled with papers related to the incidents, which they had stayed up for 2.5 days to prepare. "Listen up, each of you pick out the cases you can handle, then write an article and submit it for review." At that moment, I saw a familiar face among the pile of newspapers. It was an article about a disappearance at the Academy, and among the missing was Bane, whose body had been taken over by the 9th demon. Meanwhile, in a wealthy residential area of the Imperial capital, Dantalion had already disguised himself as the homeowner. After I nearly wiped out his subordinate, the masked man, he sent another 3 of his most capable subordinates to search for me at all times. However, today, when his subordinates returned, they came back empty-handed. They reported that since the explosion, the man with the plague mask had not appeared again. Dantalion never expected that a mere human could be so cautious. So, in order to find any trace of me, he decided to expand his search and activity range. At that moment, Dantalion's fingers grew eyes on each of them, and in the next second, his fingers shot toward the face of the subordinate in front of him. In no time, they fused together. Just then, the homeowner's wife suddenly opened the door and walked in, hastily asking her husband who all these people were, but as expected, her fate was sealed. Immediately, Dantalion ordered his subordinates to dispose of her and specifically instructed them to preserve her face intact. After all, he intended to keep it. Due to Andromalius's death and my repeated interference, the 10 elite corpses' plan to open the gate to the demon world kept getting delayed, but frustration never solved the current situation. A sudden flash of insight struck Dantalion, and he thought of a brilliant plan. The next day arrived quickly. At this point, Dollars arrived at an orphanage managed by her family, which was under the care of her uncle, Quilty. "I've been thinking all night, and I've decided to talk to you, uncle. Due to the recent murders and disappearances at the Academy and in the Imperial capital, I suggest that we abolish the amnesty system. A sinner is a sinner. How can they be pardoned just because they donated some money to the orphanage or hospital?" Her uncle was the head of the collateral bloodline to the Quo Vadis family, and although he publicly ran hospitals, orphanages, and other volunteer services, he had always supported the system that pardoned the rich for their crimes. What Dollars didn't know was that her uncle's body had already been taken over by the 9th demon, and the recent series of incidents were all his doing. This system had been running smoothly all along. Weren't their donations meant to atone for their sins? Hearing this, Dollars explained seriously, the so-called atonement is about confessing one's sins to God and accepting the corresponding punishment punishment before being forgiven. But those rich people don't care about money. They donate just a tiny fraction of their wealth. How can such a system be used to save sinners? Seeing that Dallas's argument was irrefutable, Quilty stated that he was just following the teachings of the church, and then suggested that she should talk with her father, the cardinal. Hearing this, Dallas replied, "Then I'll come back later so we can talk about this more." Meanwhile, as she turned her back, Quilty nearly revealed his true form. He was too tempted by Dallas's face. Damn it, I almost couldn't control my inner impulses and wanted to devour her. For Dantalion, the Saintess was the most unique treasure he had discovered in this world. Only after collecting the Saintess would his collection be complete. But in order to not expose his identity and open the gate to the demon world, Dantalion had to restrain himself. Little did he know, just then, I was holding the investigation report Cindy Wendy had given me, and I found the orphanage where Dantalion was hiding. Based on her analysis of Andromalius's actions before his death, this orphanage was likely connected to the 10 elite corpses. But when I saw the flag of the Quo Vadis family hanging there, I fell into deep thought. If even the holiest of places could be infiltrated by one of the 10 elite corpses, then the other great families must surely have conspiracies as well. Just as I was about to enter, 3 people unexpectedly appeared behind me. Damn it, how did they end up here? This just made things more complicated. At this moment, Tudor looked around, astonished by the luxurious surroundings. He felt like this place was more like a palace than an orphanage that adopted children. Upon hearing this, Sancho asked about the director's background. PG, who was good at gathering information, pointed to a portrait beside them and answered. It said that he is Quilty, the side branch head of the Quo Vadis family, and a prominent figure with significant prestige and reputation in the capital. But I've also heard a rumor. President Dollars has a lot of prejudice against him because they have differences in views within the religious group. Hearing this, Tudor immediately thought of his own situation inside. It seems inevitable for every big family to have some infighting. On the other hand, I appeared thoughtful. I knew exactly what kind of person Dollars was, so there must be many problems with this guy. Afterward, we met with the orphanage's director. After some brief welcoming words, she assigned us a task to serve as the children's tutors for the next 10 days. As long as we sincerely cared for them, they would remember our kindness, no matter how much time passed. But at that moment, Tudor was puzzled by Bianca and Sinclair's presence as volunteers. Bianca immediately became displeased and said, "Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?" Upon hearing this, Tudor grinned. As a great Don Quixote, do I need a reason to accumulate merits? Everyone knows the rules of my house. Do good deeds every day. At the same time, Sinclair met my gaze. I never expected to run into Vakir here. We really have a connection. However, just as she finished speaking, she suddenly stretched out her hand, flustered like a little deer. "It's a shame we haven't been able to talk much, but I hope we get along in the next 10 days. In response, I shook her hand to show my agreement. As a result, Sinclair seemed to celebrate her victory, dancing around with joy. PG, noticing this, immediately shared some secret intel with me. I saw Sinclair approach the person in charge of assigning volunteers and make a request. She asked where you were volunteering and requested to be assigned to the same place as you. Do you understand what that means? Upon hearing this, I realized our encounter might have been planned. Looks like I need to be more cautious around her. But strangely, after observing for so long, I still hadn't seen Headmaster Quilty's figure. It seems he probably didn't come, but that also gives me some time to quickly understand the situation here. Then, the person in charge began guiding the children, letting them choose which tutor they wanted to follow. As expected, Sinclair, Bianca, and the others were very popular, but only I wasn't. When I had a serious expression and asked for their names, the children nearly peed themselves and ran to PG for comfort. "Vakir, you really can't control your facial expressions a little bit?" I didn't know because Pomerian listened to me so well. Maybe I'm just not great at talking to kids. Just then, when I turned around, I noticed a little girl ran out the door. At that moment, the little girl was leaning against a stone pillar in the hallway. Seeing this, I walked up to her and said, "I get nervous in crowded places too, but if I don't care about their gaze, I naturally feel much more at ease. So why are you avoiding everyone and running out here?" But my words seemed to be met with a disdainful response from her. It seems this method didn't work, so I remembered how Ian taught me how to get along with kids. I should smile and speak to them. Upon seeing the tag on the little girl's collar, I smiled and asked her as Ian had told me, "Your name is Perry, right?" Looking at Perry, when she heard me call her name, her expression seemed to change slightly. Then, in the next second, for some reason, she ran away, just as I thought maybe my smile was too awkward and she disliked it. At that moment, Dollars appeared behind me. "I saw everything. I didn't realize it because you're so gruff, but you're actually quite kind, Vakir." She then told me about Perry. Perry's heart was hurt before, so she closed it. As a result, she developed aphasia and lost her voice. In the past 13 years, she's met countless volunteers who passed through here. At first, everyone approached her warmly, but after a day, they stopped coming due to their busy schedules. Perhaps she's tired of getting attached to someone so quickly, only to grieve their absence for a long time. Meanwhile, someone walked out of the corridor, and my emotions instantly surged. Seeing Dollars still babbling on, I quickly covered her mouth and hid behind a stone pillar in the corridor. At the same time, Quilty walked over with a nobleman. They were talking about donations and acts of atonement. It turned out this nobleman nobleman wanted to pay money to redeem his sins. He said that not long ago he had bought a barbarian slave, but during the journey back there had been some friction, so he had punished him. As a result, he accidentally went too far and killed the barbarian slave, so he was planning to donate 1 billion gold to atone to the gods. Meanwhile, I activated my silent heal skill and concealed my presence. Looking at the people walking through the corridor, I was certain the man on the right was the headmaster of the orphanage, and the scent he emitted was that of an elite corpse at the academy. But Dollars didn't know why I was covering her mouth, and she also recognized the people passing by. Just as she was about to struggle free and question me, one of Quilty's subordinates suddenly noticed us. He immediately coldly questioned, "You'd better explain honestly what you're doing here." I didn't respond because from the rotten smell emanating from him, I could tell he was the same masked man I had nearly eliminated before. Suddenly, Quilty called out to Dollars, "I don't know if the Saintess likes eavesdropping on people's conversations, or if hiding behind a pillar was just her idea of a pleasant date with a male classmate." Upon hearing this, Dollars became so nervous that cold sweat broke out. She didn't even know how to explain herself, since the word eavesdropping clearly fit the situation better. Then, Quilty walked up to me. "From the clothes you're wearing, it seems like you volunteered to come work at my orphanage. But don't forget your duties. Go back and take good care of those abandoned orphans." I don't know if this demon has some special interests, but he even complimented my looks, saying he almost didn't notice because I was wearing glasses. Fortunately, Quilty didn't pursue further and left together with his employer. As for Dollars, she was furious but dared not speak. Clearly, the sacrilegious act had happened right in front of her, but she couldn't stop Quilty's atonement charm. Once they were far away, Dollars turned around and asked, "Why did you hide behind the pillar with me just now?" As for the reason, she probably wouldn't believe it. After all, that guy had infiltrated the Quo Vadis family's inner circle, and he definitely had enough confidence to keep his identity hidden. So I simply said, "I apologize if you were surprised by my sudden actions. I will be careful from now on." After saying this, I turned and left. At this point, Dollars was frozen in place. She vaguely sensed that I was extremely angry, but she couldn't figure out exactly what had caused my anger. Not long after, I learned a bit more about Quilty. He spends 2 hours a day at the orphanage. As for his work, it mostly involves criminals coming to pay him money for atonement. What surprised me was that even the sales records of the atonement charms were sent by Quilty to Cardinal Humbert of the Quo Vadis family. Could it be that even Dollars' father has fallen into misfortune? And the most important thing is that Quilty has 4 personal bodyguards, 3 men and 1 woman. They rotate shifts every day, following him around. Given that I know the masked man's strength is not much different from mine and doesn't surpass me, the other 3 are also no ordinary opponents. So before confronting Quilty head-on, I need to eliminate his 4 bodyguards one by one. Otherwise, with my current strength, I'd be unable to withstand an attack from more than 3 of them. At that moment, Tudor and the others found me. They hadn't expected me to be so engrossed in washing clothes. While they sympathized with me for making up credits, they also hoped I wouldn't overwork myself. But seeing my dedication to helping the children, they felt inspired to work harder as well. "Everyone, follow Vakir." But these 3 had no idea what my intentions were. The location I chose and the things I was doing allowed me to observe Quilty's movements more effectively. Time passed quickly, and another day had gone by. At this moment, the children were playing on the playground. At the same time, I noticed Perry was sitting alone in the distance, watching the others play. So I quietly approached and sat down, playing with something that resembled a rubber ball in my hands. Sure enough, a common trait of children is their intense curiosity. My actions successfully captured Perry's attention, but this wasn't a toy. It was an unhatched egg of Madame 8 Legs. Since the children of the Ballocks play with it as a ball, I kept one as a keepsake. Seeing Perry's expression at that moment, I knew the timing was right. I intentionally bounced the egg into her hands. Perry then happily started playing with the egg. I had anticipated this situation, but I didn't expect the effect to be so remarkable. Suddenly, Sinclair, who was behind me, called out, "Vakir, you're just as kind as I thought you'd be, although you're quite gruff." Hearing this, I asked her what she wanted. "Of course, I just want to get closer to Vakir." When she said this, I was left somewhat speechless. Then Sinclair asked, "Is it alright that I can speak more casually? Do you what you want? Does that mean I can call you Brother Vakir from now on? After all, I'm a year younger than you." As soon as she finished speaking, I immediately rejected her, saying, "No." Her words made me feel rather uncomfortable. At that moment, the ball in Perry's hands suddenly bounced away, and it happened to fall through a hole in the iron fence into a stinky ditch. Noticing this, Sinclair and I rushed over, but seeing where it fell, Sinclair was at a loss for what to do. I comforted Perry, saying, "Don't worry about the ball. It's okay." However, she started crying anxiously, so, to make her feel better, I began taking off my shirt, saying, "I have no other choice." Meanwhile, Dollars was still bothered by what had happened. She didn't have a great impression of me, believing I was too quick to judge others with prejudice. Moreover, due to my behavior, I had lost so many points that I was now required to do volunteer work. However, she had learned from Tudor and the others that over the past few days, I hadn't rested for even a moment, always choosing to help others first before attending to my own matters. This made Dollars realize that her judgment about me was inaccurate and that she was the one who had her own prejudices about me. And because many were aware of the tension between Quilty and her. She believed I was being considerate by hiding with her, thinking I had noticed Quilty, so she came to find me to apologize. But at that moment, I had already taken off my clothes. Seeing this, Sinclair's face instantly turned red, and as for me, without hesitation, I jumped into the ditch. In the end, after searching in the stinky ditch, I finally found the egg. But I have to say, with my keen sense of smell, it was quite a torturous experience. Perry, you don't need to feel sorry. Look, I've found it for you. Time quickly passed, and it was the last day of our volunteer work at the orphanage. At this moment, Tutor and the others were playing with the children on the playground. They felt that the 10 days of volunteering had passed too quickly, always feeling like they had just arrived yesterday. To celebrate this last day, they decided to play until they exhaust all their energy. As for me, I was still sitting beside Perry, watching from a distance. Unlike before, she no longer avoided me, and her affection for me had almost reached its peak. For this, Perry even made a flower wreath for me with her own hands. Seeing this, I thought she was bidding me farewell, but she waved her hands to deny it. Since Perry couldn't speak, she started writing on my hand. She said that this was to thank me for my companionship over the past few days, especially for the memory of me risking myself to retrieve the ball for her. In the very end, Perry put on a pitiful expression, and she asked if we would meet again in the future. This question reminded me of what Dollars had told me. Perry actually doesn't want to interact with people, and there's another reason for that. She doesn't want short-term companionship. But in this demon-filled imperial capital, every hunt prepared me for the possibility of instant death, so I can't promise that I'll come back. Just as I hesitated whether or not to give a definite answer, Perry's mood had already started to slowly fall. We'll meet again, Perry. I promise to come here if there's tomorrow for me. Upon hearing the answer she wanted, Perry smiled brightly and then began to gesture again on my hand. I'll wait for you, elder brother. Afterward, our group went to the great hall of the orphanage. At this moment, Quilty was giving us a speech as we were about to part ways. Though these 10 days were short, for the children who have lost their parents, it's immeasurable. Through meeting all of you, the children have been able to experience the beauty brought by family love again, and it helps to fill the emptiness in their hearts. In the future, if any of these children achieve great things, it will all be thanks to you. As the speech neared its end, Quilty instructed his subordinate to bring forward a merit box. He hoped that everyone present could contribute their humble strength. For this, I feel utterly disgusted. He's talking about kindness with that demonic mouth of his. He's skillfully triggering the feeling of respect and debt that they feel towards their parent and asking for cash donations from these young students. At that moment, I noticed that Quilty's 4 guards were present, which undoubtedly posed a threat to my plan. However, I absolutely could not allow this person to continue being arrogant and domineering. My plan must proceed as intended. At this point, people in the crowd began to line up to donate money, and my unusual behavior caught Sinclair's attention. She asked me why I wasn't joining in with everyone. In response, I bluntly said, I don't have money. Sinclair thought my answer seemed a bit heartless, so I replied again. This world requires one to rely on their own strength to survive. As parents, they are only needed during childhood. But before I could finish my sentence, Sinclair suddenly grabbed my hand. Looks like you must have many painful pasts, but it's okay. Whenever there's a holiday or break, you can come to my house to hang out and eat with me and my family. As soon as she finished speaking, she immediately turned and ran away, leaving me completely puzzled about what was going through her mind. What a strange person. But what I really need to think about is, who exactly is Sinclair? Before I regressed, she was the most extraordinary out of the Ice Corps and always placed first in both theory and practical for 4 years straight. But then, she disappeared after graduation and never showed herself again. After that, we came to the final farewell with the children. Tutor and the others spoke the words they had been holding inside, promising to come visit the children often. But strangely, why had Perry not shown up? Then, I found Dollars. Senior, I have a question. Have you seen Perry? Upon hearing this, Dollars immediately began looking around. She vaguely remembered seeing Perry earlier when she went to the restroom. At this point, my heart instantly skipped a beat. Could it be that Quilty took Perry? How dare he act so recklessly in front of me, thinking that just because he has 4 lackeys, I can't do anything to him. The scene shifts, and it's now late at night. While everyone else is fast asleep, I put on my night hound outfit and hid in the darkness of the orphanage. At the same time, the 4 subordinates of the demons seemed to be acting according to a plan. Each of them took a different position and began moving in separate directions. This, in turn, gave me the chance to take them down one by one. At that moment, I followed the masked man. Sensing something behind him, he quickly turned around, but saw nothing. But when he turned around, I appeared in front of him and questioned, "Where are the children who were locked up for the purpose of being the demon's food supply?" The masked man did not respond, but immediately grabbed his hammer and swung it violently at me. Seeing that he didn't want to cooperate, I swiftly separated his head from his body. "Since you don't want to talk, I won't waste any more time playing with you.